Hey team, Mike here at After 40 Fitness and after40fitness.ca. I'm going to do a video today on the stages of keto. I'm surprised every day when I jump into social media forums, the number of people who start keto and have no idea what they're doing. Don't know how to prep, don't know what the phases are, don't know what to expect. Keto flu still in 2020, keto flu is still happening. Oh, drives me nuts. So I'm hoping this video, by the time I'm done discussing the 5 phases of keto, of the ketogenic way of eating, the ketogenic diet or regimen, if you will. It's all semantics, whatever word you use. I'm hoping that you'll have a better appreciation, especially if you get this video before you start your journey. You'll know better what to expect. We don't talk about that enough. We used to talk about it way more back in the 90s with the Atkins days. Bob Atkins was really clear on spelling out the stages of the Atkins program, and we don't discuss that enough. I'm going to try to deal with that today. Hey, by the way, if this is your first time to my channel or you haven't yet, please do subscribe. Hey, hit that subscribe button, pound the like button for me, like the video, subscribe to the channel, share the video. This is one of those ones you're going to want to post every time someone says, I got a headache or I'm not feeling great or I'm thinking about keto, where do I start? Send them this video. Okay, you're going to appreciate the information. You know they will too. On that note, let's start with a quick intro to the keto program with a phase 0. Before we even get into the 5 phases, let's start with phase 0. Phase 0 to me is before you actually start. So let's say that you're one of those people who says, Monday, I want to go no carbs, no carbohydrates as a Monday morning when I wake up. And today's Friday or Saturday. Well, there's some things you should do. There are some preliminary steps. In fact, I did a whole video just on the 10 steps to start any regimen, not necessarily keto, low carb, or Atkins, not necessarily intermittent fasting, not even an exercise program, all of them. There are 10 universal steps that you want to take. So I'm going to link to that video down below, but I mean, some of them are simple stuff like clean out your pantry, get the good stuff, get the stuff you know you're going to need, stock up on the meats and the cheeses and all the things that are part of our keto way of eating, right? Do you know what the keto foods are? Have you looked up and Googled keto food lists? Do you know what you're leaving out versus what you're going to have more of? Be ready. Don't Monday morning go look in your pantry and see nothing but crap. Okay, so phase 0, if you will, is that preliminary step. That's that video down below. Don't miss it. Best 20 minutes. If you're going to start any kind of an exercise or fitness program, never mind keto, Atkins, low carb, or intermittent fasting, you want to watch that video. Okay, now on that note, let's start with phase 1. So phase 1 is that Monday morning, or it could be today for me as a Saturday. I could just start this morning and say, no more crap. No more carbohydrates. Okay, so as of today, I am keto. I am ketonic, I'm low carb, I'm Atkins, or I might just start with an intermittent fast. Today's the day. Today is day 1. This, folks, is phase 1. Phase 1 is the first day of your keto, Atkins, low carb way of eating. Okay, your WOE, your way of eating, your way of life for that matter. It really isn't a diet regimen. Sure it is. Okay, there's no easier, better, faster way to lose weight. Phase 1 of keto or Atkins or low carb, or even intermittent fasting is so cool. I mean, by and large, the most amount of people lose the most amount of weight in their first week to 10 days. It is truly remarkable. And depending on how much you have to lose, it can be anywhere from 2-3 pounds in the first week to 10 days to 20. In fact, you know, I was watching a video by Dr. Ken Berry. If you know who Dr. Ken Berry is, great guy. A family physician. He's married to a wonderful lady named Nisha, a nurse. And he had an interesting comment, him and his wife, about what happens in the first week or so. So I'm going to show you 2 clips, one by Dr. Berry, one by Nisha, and they'll kind of talk about what happens in the first week to 10 days of a keto, low carb Atkins regimen.
This is also where it comes from, where you hear somebody say, I started keto and I lost 20 pounds in 10 days or 2 weeks. That's fluid. That's not, you don't burn fat that fast. I wish. Keto's good, but it's not miraculous.
And that's most, the more you weigh, the more fluid you're going to lose. So if you're not severely overweight, then you'll lose more like 3 to 5 pounds.
Yep,
but if you're very overweight, it could very well be up to 20 pounds of fluid.
Awesome. So depending on the person, it can be anywhere from, in my case, it was about 3 pounds the first week. And there have been people in the first 10 days who have lost 20 pounds. Again, as Nisha nicely pointed out, depending on how much you have to lose. Now, as Dr. Berry said, don't think for a second that's fat. All right, it doesn't work that way. It's remarkable how many people think that because their loss in the first week was, let's say, 5 pounds, that should be sustainable. Stop. All right, that's water weight. As he nicely described, we expel, our kidneys actively expel water when we cut carbs. Right, so you can drop 4 or 5 pounds of water in a week. Remarkable. Not at all sustainable. Once you drop that excess water, you're going to hold the amount of water based on the amount of carbs you eat. Right, so up your carbs, you'll hold more water. Hormonal differences for women, I hate to tell you, it's so unfair, but what happens to you guys for about a week, a month is water weight. It's, again, amazing being objective, not being a woman. As a guy, getting to watch women, oh my God, I gained 3 pounds on my week. Well, no shit, but do you think it's fat? Stop it. It's water weight. You know that. That's how hormones work. And as soon as you come out of your, something Dr. Barry and Nisha were talking about that. Let me show you this clip real quick too.
Even when I'm eating 100% strict, there are times of the month where I'm up 3 or 4 pounds, but that's a woman thing, and you shouldn't really stress about that.
That's a fluid shift, and as soon as her hormones go back post-menstrually after she's finished, then the hormones go back to normal, and then the fluid, she pees that off the next morning.
Not only do the kidneys now actively dispel or expel water, but along with that, electrolytes. So your sodium and your potassium and your magnesium are the big three. There's some others, right? There's calcium and there's phosphate. Those don't have as much of an impact as the big three, being sodium, potassium, and magnesium. And along with that comes this wonderful thing that we in the keto space call the keto flu. It's not new. We had it back in the 90s when I first started Atkins in like 1992. Believe me, we called it the Atkins flu. Right now, back in the 90s, guess what we didn't know? We didn't know what it was. Science 30 years ago didn't know that it was an electrolyte imbalance. We didn't know. We thought it was just the rite of passage to go from burning carbs to burning fats. We had no idea. Science is pretty clear now. So, and I can show you images, and I'll show you a couple here that it's clear. Sodium, magnesium, potassium, and the deficiency of them as we actively expel them. And it's, I got to stop for a second and tell you that I wish it didn't happen. I'm surprised, actually, that the kidneys are not more intelligent, that the kidneys don't actively hold on to sodium and potassium since we need them. But as you expel this water, so goes electrolytes. Right? So we now know that all you need to do, and I shouldn't say all you need to, but what you need to do to get ready, right, from day one in phase 1 of keto is up your electrolytes. If you don't have a good source, in fact, I'll show you a couple. Okay, so for example, when it comes to magnesium, any good magnesium, and there's so many, glycinate, biglycinate, chelated, citrate, there's so many to pick from. This one here has got magnesium in glycinate. All right, so I like this one here. I just bought this one off of Amazon. When it comes to magnesium, any good magnesium supplement will work. You have to figure out which one suits your metabolism best. I find that when I need help going to the washroom, I reach for magnesium citrate or magnesium oxide. Either one of those have a laxative effect for me. Awesome. But during the day when I just want to keep my magnesium up and ward off any cramping, I go with the magnesium I just showed you there, which is magnesium glycinate. Biglycinate works the same. So get yourself a good source of magnesium. Secondly, when it comes to salt, make no mistake, table salt is fine. Table salt is bleached, right? But at least you're getting the sodium, and you know something else, they add iodine. All right, all table salt now has got iodine, good for the thyroid. So don't let anybody say to you that, oh my God, you shouldn't be using table salt. That's bullshit. Absolutely bullshit. Now, is there better? 100% yes. So whether it's Himalayan pink salt, I like this one here, Himalayan pink is the one I kind of partial to. Celtic sea salt, I grab that occasionally. There's lots of sea salts and pink salts that you can get that are more natural, have trace amounts of other elements. Trace amounts, be clear. Redmond Red, people will often say, but it's got some magnesium, it's got some potassium built in, too little to count. Too little to count, too little to matter. You must supplement your magnesium and potassium as well. But get yourself a good pink, red salt of some kind. Redmond is a good red salt. I like this Himalayan pink. Now, on top of that, when it comes to potassium, there's a couple of good sources of potassium. I'm partial to no salt or new salt. I just got this one the other day, which is a sea salt substitute. In fact, it says across the bottom, salt substitute. Now, when I look at this is actually predominantly potassium. So when you get a sodium replacement, like a no salt or a new salt, or in this case, this one here, sea seasoning, it actually is predominantly, it has a little bit of sodium. In fact, it has this one per serving, per teaspoon has got 35 milligrams of sodium. So a little tiny bit, but 4 times as much potassium. You may also go with cream of tartar. That's what cream of tartar looks like. It's a powder. And cream of tartar or cream of tartar, depending on who you are and where you live, I just prefer cream of tartar, is also predominantly potassium based. And you can get that at most health food stores. You ask for cream of tartar and you can mix that in, sprinkle that on your salads and up your potassium level. I'm also really partial to, in my bottle when I go to the gym, of drinking a blend. If you have a chance, Google Vega Hydrator. Just about every health store has got it, GNC, carries it for sure. So does Walmart, Walgreens. I find this thing everywhere. Shoppers Drug Mart, if you're up here in Canada. It's called Vega Hydrator, and it's got a beautiful blend. It's got, on top of having 100 milligrams of sodium, it's got 400 milligrams of potassium. And I feel great, no cramping, no muscle cramping at night, no muscle cramping while I'm at the gym. By the way, there's a difference between those two, so you know. If you are actively working out and you get a cramp, that is potassium deficiency. If you cramp at night, lying in bed, and you get a cramp anywhere, predominantly for me it's in my legs, in my quads, or in my calves, that is a magnesium shortage. Right? One's in activity, the other one's at rest. Two different elements, potassium in one case, magnesium in the other. So the way to take care of that, as long as I keep my electrolytes in check, I get none of that. At some point, I turned to my doctor and said, I'm getting cramps. I'm getting cramps. And you know what my doctor said? So good. He said, up your electrolytes. If you're getting cramping, potassium, magnesium. And I said, great, how much? He goes, until the cramping stops. Easy peasy, right? I mean, that's simple but profound, until the cramping stops. So now every couple of days I get in the forums and someone says, I just started keto or intermittent fasting and I got a massive headache. What do? Guess what I say? Up your potassium, sodium, magnesium. Well, how much? Until the headache goes away. I mean, I sound so profound. I sound like, oh, that guy is intelligent. No, just repeating what my doctor told me. What you need to know is the RDA for the average person, the RDA for sodium, just a regular follow of a SAD, a standard American or standard Western diet, it's about 2.5 grams of sodium and about 4 grams a day of potassium. All right, well, about a gram, by the way, for magnesium too. Immaterial though. What I'm talking about is the sodium and the potassium. That's a big one. That's a balance. There's a yin and yang between sodium and potassium. So if it's 2.5 grams a day for people who are on the SAD and 4 grams a day for potassium, well, at least get that much if you're keto, since you know your body's expelling it, right? So people often say, but I've upped my potassium, I've upped my sodium, and I'm still getting headaches, I'm still getting fatigue and lethargy and the keto flu symptoms. And I'll say more. I bet you're not even hitting the RDA for standard American diet followers. Well, if that's the case, guess what? More, right? How much more? Until your headache goes away, until your lethargy and fatigue improve. Or if you're like me, until the cramping stops. Okay, so hyperkalemia doesn't kick in until you've got a blood level that requires somewhere, like I read 2 different sources that said unless you're ingesting, one said more than 10 grams a day of potassium, and the other one said 16, before the average person has to fear hyperkalemia. Now, I'm not a doctor. I'm just a guy on the internet. In fact, I am a boot camp coach and a certified keto coach, but I'm not your doctor. So if you doubt anything I say, it behooves you to go check with your doctor. Okay. So on that note, phase 1 is that intro phase of being prepped, because in 2020, if you do a modicum of research, especially if you watch my videos, there is 0 reason why you should be suffering from keto flu symptoms. Don't let it happen. Okay. So if you do know anybody who says, oh my God, I'm suffering from keto flu or this Atkins flu thing and I don't know what to do, send them this video. I'll school them for you, okay? Because there's no reason for it. If anybody does any research whatsoever, they should know what keto flu is and how to avoid it. All right, so phase 1, the intro to keto. Got that? All right, you're ready. You've set your pantry up. You now have the right stuff to take care of your body, to make sure electrolytes are in check. Now let's move on to phase 2. And phase 2 is this thing we call in the keto space fat adapted or keto adapted. Okay, and what that refers to is now it takes about 3 to 4 weeks for the average person. It can take as long as 2 months if someone is really metabolically challenged or unhealthy. For me, I don't mind telling you, it was in the 4th week that I became this term fat adapted or keto adapted. And I could tell at the gym, and I'll explain that in just a second. Fat adapted, oh, by the way, I have a whole video just on how do you know you're fat adapted. I'll put that link down below as well. But that refers to when you've become metabolically or enzymatically efficient at burning fatty acids and ketones. Make no mistake, from the moment you go keto, you start a clock to when you become a fat burner. And for most people, I don't mind telling you, it's about a day. And I'll show you a link here just to prove it. The average person goes into a mild state of ketosis most nights. Because as soon as your glucose bottoms out to your fasting level, which takes typically about between 6 and 8 hours, and then your insulin drops to your fasting insulin level, at that point, guess where your body gets calories from? Your body gets fuel, if you don't like the term calories, it gets fuel from adipose fat stores. So you begin releasing fatty acids from your fat stores that cycle in your blood and go off to mitochondria and get used as energy. And a byproduct of that in the liver is ketones. So the average person will test positive for very, very mild, 0.1, 0.2 millimole ketones in the morning. All right, so that means that you are already burning, most of us, in fact, by far the majority of us are already okay at burning fatty acids. We're just not great at it. Because we spend so little time burning fatty acids, right? We go off and have breakfast, and breakfast has got cereal and juice and carb. We immediately kick ourselves back out of ketosis into that mild state, right? Because most people have no choice but to tap into fatty acids for fuel once their glycogen and insulin levels bottom out back to their fasting glucose levels, which for most people, again, is overnight. Now, having said that, are we primed? Are we good? Are we efficient? What is our efficacy of burning fatty acids and ketones? Not great. Not great. We are so in tune with burning carbs, being carb burners for most of our lives, that it takes some time for the body to go, he's not or she's not giving me a choice here. I've got to get good at burning fatty acids. I've got to get more efficient at this. Now, in that phase, we suffer energy levels, right? Different from keto flu. This refers to our ability to use those fatty acids well, particularly during exercise. And so for about the 3 to 4 weeks that I'm talking about in this getting keto adapted phase, phase 2 of keto, we often suffer in the gym. In fact, it's very common. I want to quote Dr. Finney here. Look at this video. Dr. Finney did this video talking about explorers up north. And notice what he says about how long it takes for the average person. I shouldn't say that, for these explorers. This is 100 years ago. This clip I'm going to show you by Dr. Finney is from 100 years ago, where he shows what happens to explorers when they go on mainly a meat and caribou diet when they're up exploring the Great North. Here it comes.
He wrote down in 1880 that when first thrown wholly upon a diet of reindeer meat, it seems inadequate to properly nourish the system, and there is an apparent weakness and inability to perform severe exertive journeys. And then what I highlighted here, but this soon passes away in the course of 2 to 3 weeks. Now, the reason this resonated with me is I read this diary. I stumbled on this diary just by chance while I was writing up my PhD dissertation. So I'd spent 3 years studying athletes on low-carb diets. And that's what we figured out, that it took at least 2 or 3 weeks for people to get through this sag before their performance came back. And that was my brand new, never before discovered observation. This guy scooped me by 100 years.
And I noticed right away at the gym, I couldn't do HIIT. I was getting killed. I was getting destroyed in HIIT workouts. I couldn't keep up. I felt really silly, actually. I looked silly, just getting destroyed. And then all of a sudden, in the 4th week, the difference was like 2 days apart. I went from having a shitty HIIT workout to 2 days later, killing it. Even the wife noticed. Right? Unbelievable. It was like a light switch for me. In 48 hours, I went from not knowing if I was going to do this or give up to all of a sudden I'm like at my best, personal best. Unbelievable. All right. So that's how, to me, it's the only indicator, by the way. I couldn't tell in any other way, shape, or form. There was no other outward indicator where I could say I'm fat adapted, I'm keto adapted. No, only at the gym, only in performance could I personally tell. So in my video, I talk about some other signs. I didn't experience them. I only experienced performance in the gym as an indicator. But when that happens, you are now efficient. You are now an efficient, proficient, efficacious fat and ketone burner, and now you have some leeway. At that point, you can actually leave ketosis for a day or two. I do twice a month. Twice a month, I purposely leave ketosis, go out and binge on carbs just to keep and maintain my metabolic flexibility so I can do that. Right? You may want to consider that. In fact, I have a video on doing that, on how to incorporate refeeds. And again, I'm partial to twice a month. If there's no special occasions to take advantage of, then for me, it's just every other Saturday. And every other Saturday, if there's, again, no birthdays, anniversary parties, bar mitzvahs, whatever the case might be, I'm going to take the family out for ribs at Montana's with all the fixins, go for ice cream after, maybe go to the show, have a large root beer with some M&Ms and some licorice and popcorn. I often say it's pretty disgusting. But twice a month, I do that for myself. Okay? And I feel great. I don't have any downside from it. I maintain my metabolic flexibility. And that means I can switch back and forth between carbs, and the next day, by noon the next day, I'm back in ketosis. That's the power of being fat adapted. Okay, so phase 2 is for fat adapted. All right, that's it for phase 2. Let's move on to phase 3. Phase 3 is the inevitable pause, stall, plateau. All right, now I really am surprised at the number of people who are caught off guard by stalls. like they think our body's not going to rebel. Our body's not going to stick its head up and go, am I okay? In fact, you know something? Dr. Barry had a comment on this. Let's switch real quick over to Dr. Barry. Dr. Barry, by the way, and Nisha, they use the term not stall or plateau. They like the term pause. I love it. Fat burning takes a momentary pause where the body, well, in fact, let me just show you what Dr. Barry says. Notice.
I don't even think we should treat it as, oh my God, I stalled. Where'd that come from? I think that stalling is a natural phase of fat burning, fat loss. You might pause your weight loss for a while so your body can look around and be like, is this okay? Are we dying? What's going on here? Yeah. And then when it decides, oh, everything's okay, then the fat loss can continue.
Our bodies are really unique in this sense, in that once we cut calories, our bodies go into an active state of preservation, a preservation mode. Okay, and a couple of my videos down below are going to elaborate on that if that's a topic that intrigues you. And in fact, I have a couple of videos that talk about how hormones kick in to slow down our fat burning. They drop our metabolic rate. It's scientific.
Any hormone that's out of whack could slow down or stall your weight loss. So if you have an undiagnosed thyroid condition, if you have an undiagnosed adrenal condition, if your sex hormones are not optimized where they should be, any of these things can slow down your fat loss a lot or stop it altogether.
So is it a positive stall, and why is it? Now, in most cases, it's our body just rebelling against the caloric deficit. What you don't want to do, and again, my video down below on busting through a stall will explain this, is what you don't want to do is further reduce your calories. That, my friends, is a game you can't win. That is a battle you cannot win. Your body will beat you at that every time because you can't keep dropping your calories. You don't want to do that. You want to find alternate ways. If someone says, you know, I'm going to try to, I've stalled. I've lost 40 pounds and I feel great, but all of a sudden I've stalled, and for a month or 2 months or 3 months, I haven't dropped any more weight. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to drop a food group. I'm going to drop dairy. Maybe I'm lactose intolerant. I'm going to drop nuts. Oh, nuts. I hear that they're calorie dense. A bulletproof coffee. Those are calorie dense foods. So what you're doing, if you decide, hey, I'm going to cut out dairy for a month and see what happens, guess what? You're going to lose weight. But why? Because you further cut calories. You dropped your food intake, you dropped your portions, you dropped energy intake. Well, of course you're going to lose weight. But again, I just told you that's a game. What are you going to do now? You drop another 10 pounds and you stall again. You can't cut dairy out again. You already did. Now you're going to move on to another food. You're going to cut out nuts. And so what I recommend to people is don't do that. Don't do that. First of all, I'm going to show you a video down below, a link to how I create my deficit 100%. I eat at maintenance at 2,500 calories a day, and I create my deficit 100% via exercise. That's how I now maintain. But if I want to lose weight, I don't cut calories. I up my exercise. I spend 10 more minutes on the treadmill, or I do one more circuit when it comes to HIIT. Right? That's how I drop weight when I want to get leaner. I do not drop my calories. I do not want to play that game. I recommend you don't, my friends. Don't cut calories. Okay, so when it comes to these pauses, as Dr. Barry and Nisha put it, or these stalls, find other ways. And again, my video down below on how to break through a stall will help with that. I'm going to treat phase 4, which is exercise, as a separate phase. Now, if you're fortunate and you already exercise as you begin this regimen, you can breeze through this one in a hurry and go right to phase 5, which is maintenance. But phase 4, I do want to talk about exercise in detail for a couple of minutes. Right? Many people will jump into social media forums and will say, hey, can I do keto, Atkins, low-carb, intermittent fasting and not work out? And the answer is, of course you can. Of course you can. You really can. There's nobody coming to your arm, coming to your house, twisting your arm saying, you got to work out. I really hope you'll adopt the mentality of, yeah, I could do that. I could keto, low-carb, Atkins, intermittent fast without working out, but why would you want to? My question always when this topic comes up is, why would you want to? And the reason why I jump on that is because you may have heard the term that keto, Atkins, low-carb, intermittent fasting, all of them collectively are known as muscle sparing. I talk about this a lot. That muscle sparing, notice it's muscle sparing, not muscle proof. The average, and I'll show a clip here, the average diet regimen, the average caloric deficit results in fat loss, but it also, of the total amount of weight loss, somewhere between about 20 to 30% can be from muscle. All right, think about that. If you do Weight Watchers, the Ornish Diet, the Zone, the Jenny Craig, and you drop 50 pounds, well, guess what? Almost 20 of it is going to be from muscle. You can't afford that. I can't afford that. You can't afford that. All right. We do not want to lose muscle in the process. So phase 4 to me is maximizing fat loss while minimizing muscle loss. So when I say the term muscle sparing, all the studies I've read on those keto, Atkins, low carb, intermittent fasting, if they do lose muscle, it's very little. it's somewhere, depending on the study, between 4 and 10%. Seems to be the amount of muscle loss for those who do keto, Atkins, low-carb, intermittent fasting to create their caloric deficit, but don't add resistance training. Notice resistance training. If you don't resistance train, in other words, if you don't lift something heavy, you will have somewhere between 4 and 10%, again, depending on the study, 4 and 10% muscle loss, and you can't afford that. Lift something heavy. And listen, before you say it, stop. Just stop and don't tell me, but I walk, I do my 10,000 steps a day, or I play with my kids and I chase them around the house with a pillow. Stop it, stop it, stop it. Right? That's naive. Please don't think that way. You must lift something heavy. Resistance training, aka lifting. Right? And that, but believe me, I'm not talking about getting bulky and adding mass. Right? I'm just talking about preserving what you've got. Right? So don't be one of those women who says, but I don't want to get bulky. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just keeping what you got, minimizing down to zero the amount you're going to lose. Because lose you will, right, if you don't resistance train. So again, if you already are before you start, God bless you. Keep doing it. But if you aren't, make a decision, make a commitment that you're going to find a way to 3 or 4 times a week work something heavy. Okay, get it done. All right, important. Phase 4. Let's move on to phase 5. Phase 5 is maintenance. So you've stuck with the regimen, you've sustained it, and you've reached your goal weight. You may have dropped 30 pounds, 50 pounds, 100 pounds, but you're at your desired weight. For me, 190. And let's say now, for example, you want to maintain but not lose any more. You're comfortable. In fact, you may want to put on a bit of muscle now. So now you're talking about some muscle growth, add a couple of pounds. Okay, God bless. So how do we maintain, not lose any more? What can we do with our diet regimen so that we stay where we are and not gain any back? Okay, that's the difference here. We don't want to do what you've likely done many times in the past of lose and gain, that whole yo-yo thing. We don't want that. So I'll tell you what I did, and you let me know. Maybe put a comment down below if this is relevant to you, if you found this impactful. So when I hit my goal, when I get about 190, I'm vascular. I like my abs. You know, the wife likes my abs. So all of a sudden now I like where I am and I want to stay. So I began then to play with my carb limit. Now, first of all, at that point, I was about 2,100, 2,200 calories a day. I went right back up to 2,500 to see what the impact would be. At 2,500, I could pretty much hold still, but I wanted to see what I could do with my carbs and stay in ketosis. I want to be with you in ketosis. It's important to me for all the other benefits that come from being ketotic. So I began to play with my upper limit of carbs. And over the course of a couple of weeks, every couple of days, I would add 5 more grams. I tracked with Carb Manager and MyFitnessPal, just like I hope you do. It was important to me to find out what my upper threshold was because I've been hovering between 20 and 25, like I'm sure you do. 20, 25, no more than 30 grams a day of carbs to maintain ketosis. But now that I'm at my goal weight, how high can I go? And to my surprise, I can eat 75 grams of carbs per day and stay before my keto vibe began to be impacted. Okay, before I could start, I could actually notice that my ketos were dropping, my ketones, and sometimes going away and coming back a few hours later. Right? So keto mojo, I'm pricking myself as I up my carbs, and sure enough, I noticed that between 70 and 75 grams, my vibe was impacted. So I now know, listen, here's the takeaway from that. On top of upping my calories to maintenance and maintaining my slight deficit from exercise, I now hover between 35, let's call it 35. I aim for 35 grams a day of carbs. But I know I can almost double that. I can almost double it on it for any given reason to 65 to even 70 grams a day. And I know I'm safe. What a great thing to know. What a great thing to know. So if I want to reach in, the kids are having, something that I shouldn't have, and I have a spoonful or two, I know I'm good. And when I go check my ketones, I know they're there. Oh, it's so good. Being in maintenance is the bomb, but it still requires a modicum of maintenance. You still need to be watching portion control, energy intake control, macro control. You still need to be aware. It just gives you a bit more granularity, a bit more control, knowing and a bit more latitude that, hey, all of a sudden, if you decide you want to go and have 100 grams, it'll cost you your keto vibe for a couple of hours. For me, the next morning, if I have 100 grams of carbs in a given day, next morning I'm always back in ketosis. Folks, that's the idea behind this video, is the 5 plus the entry phase 0 approach to keto. This is that one that I'm telling you that you want to share this video far and wide. Okay, make sure people who are in their starting keto, they know what to expect. All right, send them this clip, share it with them. If you're in social media and someone says, I'm looking to start keto and I don't know what to expect, this is the video you should be sharing with them. On that note, folks, again, thanks so much for your time. If you got through this video with me, I appreciate it. And I do respect your time. I appreciate it, my friends. Don't forget to hit the like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel, share the video. But on that note, see you in the next one.